So over to you. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks for having us, Sam. As Sam said, my name's Dom, Evie and Noah. Firstly, it's been incredible to watch Arcadia's journey from inception to the organisation is today, from one person, just Alex, to what you guys are doing. You're focused on social responsibility and sensitivity towards culture, connection to country, environmental issues, and events like today around mental health. All underscore the fact that people within your organisation and around it are the nucleus and the reason for it being such a success. So I want to express my admiration for you and your contributions to this journey. When I was 39 and my children here were 5 and 3, my wife Louise was diagnosed with breast cancer. 18 months later, Lou would die in my arms in a hospital bed in Germany. Her tiny body riddled with tumours. I would return home from Frankfurt with these two beautiful babies and an empty seat beside us on the plane. My life would take on a very different direction from this day, and my priorities would majorly shift. My energy and attention were purely channeled into finding my feet as a single parent and navigating that world, and just trying to raise these two children that Louise had gifted me. Dealing with grief, managing the children and their schedules and managing their grief, and also trying to run a business was somewhat challenging at this time. I feel that, I mean, for the most, like, I guess we're at an age where 3 and 5, right? You can't even go and get bread or milk without bunging them into the car as a trio. So, you know, you forgot the milk, the kids should be in bed, but you just got to move, and that's the way the new world becomes when anyone's a single parent. You know what it's like. So my emotions, I guess, were up and down for those first few years afterwards. But for the most part, we handled it really, really well. I mean, the kids, they always lead the way in regards to like resilience, adaptation, and always living in the present, always enjoying what's happening now and living for that today. One of the things I'll say about Lou is that she was a really, really good communicator. I always struggled with expression, showing emotion, talking about my feelings. Lou even started a blog as soon as she was diagnosed with cancer, because she wanted to share her journey and be open and transparent with all her friends and family with her own fight to save her life. I actually decided to keep the blog going when she got too sick to write. She only got a few posts in and things started regressing a lot. So, and I quickly found that expressing myself and writing and stuff was quite therapeutic, and it made me feel better. Surprise, surprise, surprise. After 3 years of being a widower and on my own, I entered into a relationship that fell apart pretty much as soon as it started. And that was the catalyst, I guess, that set me into a bit of a spin. And it's, maybe I delayed a lot of the grief. Maybe I was just sort of running low on energy. Potentially, I just poured too much into these 2 cups right here and not enough into my own, because you're running on adrenaline. And in those first few years, you just want to make sure the kids are good. And if the kids are good, you think you'll be good. And it doesn't always work out that way if you're not looking after yourself. So I got into the deepest of ruts and wallowed in so much despair that I could barely function. Many mornings I'd drop the kids off at school and I actually come back home and collapse back into bed and just stare at the wall in the fetal position, trying to muster up as much energy as I could just to get moving for the day so my business didn't implode. And without the responsibility of Noah and Evie, sometimes I hate thinking the lowest point might have landed. And even knowing how much communicating benefited and having first experience, you know, I've sort of seeing Lou being so open and then me starting to be more transparent with the blog. In this situation, because it got bad so quickly, I stupidly just took this stiff upper lip approach of, you know, I'll be all right. You know, if I do this, then this will happen, or if the kids are good, I'll be good. That kind of approach. And it wasn't the case. So, Are You Okay Day, it focuses on you know, asking people if they're okay, and that's bloody awesome. But always remember to stick your hand up too when you're not. It's a bit of an underlying thing we've got going on today. You know, Are You Okay Day tells you look for signs. You know, if someone's not doing that well, but you know, tough guys like me may not display any, which is, you know, where we come unstuck. It wasn't until my depressive state and emotional turmoil basically bled into my physical appearance and people lost a lot of weight, stuff like that, looking well. People started asking questions about my welfare. And when people started asking, like literally, there's something obviously up, I knew I had to make a change and act accordingly. I constructed a one-page plan. I sort of sat down and I've got to get out of this hole. A one-page plan to get out of that, basically just crawl out of this emotional trench that I resided in. I sourced a post that I'd written for the 25th of August, 2022, and it's got a reference to Are You OK Day, so I thought it'd be quite fitting for today, and I'll just read this verbatim because it's a few years old now. It's very true. A conversation can change a life. I love that there's a modern day awareness of this simple but indispensable need and a national day to support it. We can never do enough to inspire meaningful connections with people that are struggling. Anyone can reach out and ask, are you okay? And I encourage you all to do so. And there's nil prerequisites needed to ask the question. The issue for me personally was when I got asked that question, are you okay? My response would always be something like, I'm good. Things are great. How about you? Yeah, good, mate. You well? All good? What have you been up to? An instant deflect auto response, perfected over time to have to dodge talking about my feelings in any way whatsoever. I recently stopped doing this. I stopped doing this a couple of years ago back then, and I feel it's been life-changing. Leading up to this point, I just kept telling myself, chin up, I'll be better tomorrow, and not the tummy will disappear, hang in there, run it off, it'll pass. And it didn't pass, not that time. Days turned into weeks, and then I stopped sleeping and eating properly, and my brain turned to mud. At this point, nothing makes sense. At this same time, I decided to see a psychologist. I set some self-help goals, and one of those goals is to contact my close friends and family and let them know that I'm not okay. I set a goal of 7 days. Within 7 days, I'm going to get out there and chat to everyone in my closest circle that I'd sort of been trying to almost hide it from, and to say, hey. And each of those conversations, I downloaded how I was feeling and why. Not one of those conversations was a waste of time. Another big change I made is if someone asked me as an individual, they asked if I was okay or how I was doing. If they were sincere and receptive to listen, I let them know that I wasn't actually okay. And then said, listen, I've had a really tough couple of months. And I did this with people that, may not have been the closest of friends, but I was connected to in some social way. But I just started feeling lighter when I had these conversations. And and not one of those conversations I ever had, as I said, was a waste of time. So what you get back from people is genuine concern, sympathy, empathy, compassion, understanding, relatable experiences, advice and support. And then you've got the option to accept none of that, some of it, or all of it. You can put your own filter on it and work and test things that work for you. The conversation will on its own, each conversation does make you feel lighter. And for me, it just increased my sort of base level of happiness. Starting a new conversation about your mental health will likely be the inception of an open-ended dialogue with that person around healing and support. So that was the post, and a few years old now, but very relevant. As this is a corporate environment, I've got a couple of conversations, or 3 conversations I've had with work colleagues just in the last month that I thought were worth sharing. But first, Noel wants to say hi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noah. My dad says I'm the glue in the family. They even kill that keeps everyone balanced. Thank you for having my family here today. As the Arcadia team, you come together as colleagues. Some of you will be friends outside of work, but some of you will have personal differences that make it unlikely that you will be friends outside the office. I'm the same with kids in my school. I'm super close with some kids, and I don't connect so much with others. Regardless of our differences, we have an inherent duty as human beings to care deeply for one another. We are all born with reason, the power of the mind to think, understand, and form judgments logically. We need to use this power to observe, monitor, support, and empathize with our friends, colleagues, and for me, my fellow students. Today on Are You OK Day, we remind ourselves of the simple yet powerful question, are you okay? This question, just 3 small words, carries an immense weight. It's a key that can unlock conversations that need to be had, hearts that need to be heard, and lives that need to be saved. But asking, are you okay, is not just about ticking a box or following a trend. It's about genuinely being there for someone, showing them they matter and that their struggles don't have to be faced alone. We live in a fast-paced world where we're often told to be strong, push through our challenges silently, and smile through the pain. But the truth is, no one is invincible, not even my dad. I'm only 11 and I'm very well looked after. But next year I'll go to high school and I'll be the small fish in the big pond. and academic, peer, and social pressures will rise. We all have battles we're fighting, some that no one else can see. And that's why a day like today is so important. It reminds us to pause, to check in, and to listen. Asking, "Are you okay?" is more than just a question. It's an invitation to create a safe space for vulnerability, for honesty, for healing. It's a way to let someone know that their voice matters, that their feelings are valid, and that they don't have to carry their burdens alone. But remember, it's not just about asking the question, it's about genuinely listening to the answer. It's about being present, offering support, and following up. Sometimes it's about sitting in silence with someone who needs to know you're there. Sometimes it's about helping them find the courage to seek professional help. And sometimes it's simply about being a friend, colleague, or fellow student who cares. The power of connection, empathy, and kindness cannot be underestimated. Today and every day. Let's choose to be there for each other. Let's create a world where no one feels isolated in their struggles, where reaching out for help is not seen as a weakness, but as a courageous act of self-care. If you're struggling today, or you enter into an emotional decline tomorrow or next month, know that you are not alone. You don't have to face your challenges in silence. Reach out, speak up, let someone in. There is always hope, even in the darkest of times. My mum and I were extremely close. We had a super emotional bond with lots of affection and conversation. I was only 5 when she died, but even at a young age, we talked a lot. I want to continue doing that for her, talking and listening. Not about Minecraft, Fortnite, or the NBA draft, but about feelings and people. I will do my best to keep this going for her as she started a ripple effect that will help many people in my world and the people around me. For all of us here, let's commit to asking, listening, and supporting, not just "Are you okay" day, but every day. A simple conversation could change a life. So let's be brave enough to ask, strong enough to listen, and kind enough to act. Thank you. Let's make today and every day a day of connection, compassion, and care. Evie wants to say hi.
Hi, I'm Evie. I'm the energy in my family that keeps us moving at a million miles per hour. But today, as Noel mentioned, we need to slow down and carefully consider what this day is about, to pause, to check in, and to listen. My mum started a blog when she got cancer because she wanted to be a shining light to other cancer patients. She wanted to be a success story and give people hope. She only managed to write 5 posts before she got too sick to think and type, so my dad had to take over. Here is her 3rd post from my mum. 3 days ago, I had a full-blown panic attack in the middle of a crowded flight that had only just taken off. Trolleys blocking both my ways out, I knew it was coming. It started with a shortness of breath, a warm feeling crawling up all my limbs, nausea shoots kicked off. Sweating, panic, heart pounding, and endless thoughts about how of course I was dying, given my health and all the meds I'm on. In that moment, the panic is so real, and you can't escape it. And when you're on an airplane, you can't escape your situation, so it multiplied. I've had 2 major panic attacks recently, one ending in an ambulance with my beautiful friend Ali looking out for me, the other with Dom, who always works me through it. Friday was my wonderful brother-in-law. All 3 of those people knew how to handle it because they knew my mental state. They knew I was in time of struggle, and that made me feel like it was normal. It's okay. As such, my openness became my safety net. On top of it, this time it was total strangers that also helped me, the hostess, before Dom could even get to me. They reached out and asked me if I was okay. I explained that I needed help. They got me oxygen, a seat with some space, and a cup of ice. And they were just so kind, not judging me, just genuinely concerned. Friday also happened to be "Are You Okay" Day, a day checking in on our loved ones, colleagues, or even strangers. And I wanted to say that 1. It's perfectly okay to not be okay. People all around you are not okay. 2. It's okay to feel great one day and not the next. I'm a perfect example. I go from 150% to 0 in a day. And it takes a while to break through, and that's okay. And 3, you don't need to wait to be asked if you're okay. It's perfectly okay to ask someone for help and give or some physical comfort. A hug, a handheld. My brother-in-law held my hand on that plane, and it literally saved me. It comforted me without words, and I knew I didn't need to feel embarrassed or concerned about what other people thought. who was with me and he had my back. I'm good today. Please don't worry about me. This post is not for support. My openness had me covered with endless support. But do check in on your loved ones. And if you need help, even in the middle of a crowd airplane, reach out and ask someone. People want to help. I hope you're all okay this Sunday. Big hugs, love heart, hashtag I've got this. I mentioned at the start that my mom wants to be a shining light to other cancer patients. Well, she is. My mom is the face of Daffodil Day. My mom and her story helped raise over $2.5 million for cancer research. On the last Daffodil Day alone, 5 years after dying, she's still thinking goals. I love you, Mum. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, kids. Evie wasn't 100% sure whether she was going to speak or not, like leading right up to the last minute, but so good that she did. Noah was keen to do it, so it's amazing that they've done this. We've never done this format before, so the kids have never done something like this. So, I mean, I think they must get their bravery from their mum, obviously. So, well done to them. I was talking to a colleague on the phone only a week ago, and he asked how I was doing, and instead of just jumping into work, I just said, listen, I've got this sort of anxious feeling that's inside of me, and it's just sitting there, and it was sitting there all day, and it actually had it through the night. And so I just let him know that, and I couldn't identify the source, and I let him know, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I've just got this anxious feeling. We talked about that briefly, but then the conversation then moved on. I guess it was more of an acceptance and acknowledgement. But the good thing was, as that rolled in, and he just opened and said, he felt he was being a bit short that morning and impatient with the kids. He mentioned it was probably more on his head than anything he was noticeably doing. But he talked about how kids are super perceptible and notice the smallest changes and variances, which I 100% agree with. So he said to the kids that morning, I'm sorry if I've been short or seemed frustrated. That's nothing to do with you kids. I just woke up and I'm not feeling myself. I can't quite work it out. He then said to the kids, do you ever feel like that? You wake up and you feel a little bit frustrated and annoyed with yourself, annoyed and not yourself. And you're not sure why. And then his eldest kid said, I sometimes feel like that too, Dad. It's not a very nice feeling. So we only went as deep as that, but it was just the start of a conversation. The conversation then quickly turned to work because we had a bunch of stuff to cover off. But it was then just a week later that we were together in a physical setting because that was over the phone. And we had a meeting together. And it was great that the conversation then organically went back to that conversation. And then I was able to learn what was actually unsettling to my colleagues. He opened up a little bit more. And it was a reason to be unsettled, in my opinion. And then we went on from there to actually start talking about our feelings and how we let go of certain emotions, and particularly emotions around situations that you have no control over, and that why you should be letting go of those emotions. So it was, for me, it was I didn't anticipate only a couple of years ago to have these type of conversations, particularly with my colleagues. Which is super silly, right? Because all that conversation was just a relaxed conversation between two colleagues / friends who were just talking and listening with an open mind. Then I had another conversation with another colleague. He had a sporting injury and he had another sort of physical issue, but I could also sense that he just wasn't being himself. So I've decided to flick him a message, and I just exactly said, are you okay? And I sort of only got work-based reply with that. And I was just simply checking in. I decided to send a message every few days, not in an aggressive sort of, I pick, choose my time and make sure it was in regards to other conversation. I sent him a message pretty much every few days for a month, just asking if he was all right. And what I got was very clinical responses from a very clinical person. But there was only last Thursday, this day to be exact, he shot me a message up in no contact, out of the blue, and he just said, hey, I want to say massive thanks for checking in last month. I was really sick and struggling and really appreciate it. I hope you're well at your end. What made me feel really good about that is obviously not the thanks or the fact that I was reaching out, but to me, that really feels like the start of the conversation and not the end of one. And my third conversation with another male colleague, by now you guys are probably thinking, what are all these blokes talking about their feelings and emotions? What's going on with the world? I got one of my guys who lives in a state sent me a message. He said, mate, I just read your latest post. Wow, they touched me. It is so fascinating that you and your writing came on my path. Love to book a session to discuss my ideas and challenges. You and your ideas are inspiring. Now, the beauty about this message is that I didn't I didn't set out to help a single person, and it's great that I've had some feedback over time to say that some stuff I've done or things I've spoken at or have written have helped. You know, all I did when I kept on writing and took over from Lou is I just wanted to write for her because she couldn't, and then I wanted there to be a narrative for the kids post Lou's death and how we had to work as the three of us and get violent for those first few years. And then obviously when I bottomed out and got myself into this deepest of ruts, it was a way of sort of feeling better. So, I mean, I didn't go out and help anybody else, but I guess I was so deeply buried that in some ways I feel like I was planted. And that seed of growth has led me to embark on a committed journey to try and be the absolute best version of myself. And I'm proud to say that I've had one of the most emotionally balanced 12 months in maybe a decade or more. But it's been super hard work. I've had to basically review my whole life, change a whole lot of habits, try and build this scaffolding around me to improve my emotional well-being. And the beauty is that the kids are absolutely flourishing. And that goes hand in hand, right? Like if I feel like I've got to be on my game. The energy that you put off for your kids and what they observe and how they behave is so reflective of you. So the fact that they're flourishing and vice versa when the kids are doing well does make it easy for me. So, and I'm not saying it's all been 100% smooth sailing the last 12 months. I had a bit of a rocky July, and it was a little bit unsettling. But I was able to tap into that wisdom and what I'd used to get myself out of that hole a few years ago and hitting other dips to navigate those rocky times and those challenging times way better than I've ever managed before. So I'm super fortunate that got great people around me. Lou always talked about she had this village of close friends and family that were just out there to support her the whole time. So I've been lucky to inherit that support network, which I'm so happy for. And it's just sincere family and friends that actually just ask me, are you okay? I'd like to reiterate that when you do get asked if you're okay, don't say you are if you're not. Sometimes you may have to pick your time, but you've just got to be honest in that situation because people want to help. None of us here are going to be happy every day. It's impossible due to the dynamic nature of human experiences, emotional variability, and external circumstances. Life is replete with challenges, setbacks, and uncertainties that will disrupt our feelings. Personal losses, health issues, financial difficulties, interpersonal conflicts, societal pressures, your challenges here at work. They're all going to evoke at sometimes negative emotions. Remember, these experiences they're part of the human condition and they contribute to emotional diversity. Experiencing various emotions, including those perceived as unfavourable, is essential for growth and emotional resilience. Negative emotions, such as sadness, frustration, and anxiety, serve essential functions for signaling when something's wrong and it needs attention. They encourage introspection, which I did a lot of, problem solving, and adaptation. I mean, without the full spectrum of emotions, individuals would lack the depth and understanding to contribute to a meaning and fulfilling life. Marcus Aurelius, 16th Emperor of Rome and the last of the 5 good emperors, he said in his personally written journal, what's good for the hive is good for the bee, and what's good for the bee is good for the hive. Looking out for your colleagues is not just about being a good teammate, it's about fostering a culture of care and support. In this fast-paced, often stressful world of work, a simple check-in can make all the difference. When you take the time to ask how someone is doing, you create a sense of community and show that their well-being matters. By being attentive to their challenges, offering a helping hand, or just lending an ear, you strengthen the team and contribute to a more positive, productive environment. Remember, when one person thrives, the whole team benefits. Together, we can lift each other up, ensuring that no one feels alone on the journey. We are put on this planet for each other, as Noah said. We all have a role to play as a larger whole, fundamental mutual independence. So just remember, you are not alone. Thanks for having Noah, Evie, and I. We're more than happy to answer any questions. The kids and I are super open about Lou's journey through cancer and her death and the years post that. I'm also happy while I've got no, education in the headspace game. I feel I'd come at it from a practical standpoint. So we're happy to answer any questions. Noah said he'll answer any questions about the NBA if anyone's got any basketball questions. But yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Evie and Noah, wow. Thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for sharing your stories with us and your learning with us as well. Can I please ask for an extra round of applause? Any questions?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say, when I first started working here, I think I was the first working mum at Arcadia. I used to talk to my mum on the phone a lot, and our conversations always started with, you guys are little, my kids are young, it was a, are you okay? How are you going? How does sleep deprived are you? How are you feeling? She would be so proud about you. Maybe.
Thank
And I
you.
love talking about tonight, but not seeing myself.
Any questions for Noah, Evie, or Dom? I'll ask you a question then,
Okay.
in case they're a bit shy.
Yeah.
Week on week, it must be like super busy with juggling your business and juggling the kids and all the things that they have these days after school.
Yeah.
What is sacred to the three of you as your own little family unit week on week?
Just making sure that we spend quality time as the three of us. And our openness, I guess. In some ways, it's amazing. It's amazing how many green shoots of positivity can come from such a bad experience, right? Somebody dies, and then you think like, what the hell of good can come of this? But it changes you, right? So for me, I try and think of the way Lou would do things as well. So I've almost tried to develop this maternal sort of instinct that I never even sort of nearly went near, to try and understand, okay, how would Lou handle this? So for us, it's just the quality time we spend together. We don't sit at the table every single night together. Often we're quite busy and Nora eats computer, that kind of stuff. But we do try and have those 2 or 3 times where we sit down together and we talk. And we're in this. We've got this thing at the moment. We just go around the table and we just say, what do we? That's a gratitude thing. You know, what are you happy for, and what's good in your life? And it just starts that conversation. So we've been in that habit, which is great. I mean, we're lucky. I mean, I've had to structure my business around having to have the flexibility. Before I used to do a lot of consulting and go out and work within a business, and I could step back from that and just do project-based work where other people can do it and I can oversee it. And that's actually ended up being so much better for me, right? I've got this time now and as the kids get older, a little bit more flexibility. In the first few years, I had very little time. But now I've got this time and I've engineered and I can sort of keep. We travel together a lot, and you know, because it's just the three of us, right? We just book rooms everywhere. We're just all in the same bed, and we're off skiing every year and this and that. And so we have these amazing times together. So I mean, that's probably the most sacred part, is just that now I drop the kids at school every day. I'm in Carlisle at 2:45. I pick them up. I go to every single one of their sporting events. And I think prior to that, we just would have shared it. It's that diffusion of ownership, right? Well, you would have done that and I would have done that. And now I've got to do everything. So I just do it, and I do it with enthusiasm. And I've got, someone else said this once before, where I get to do it, right? So I get to take them to school. I get to make their lunches. That's not a drag, when you're not in a good mental spot, everything's a drag. But that's the approach I take. So that's the sacred part. It's just the quality time that we get to spend together as the three of us. And it's amazing when these two are together. They just on a holiday or something, they fight a lot less than when there's lots of other people around and it's very busy. So the time they get to spend with each other when they're on the move seems to be more quality as well.
You don't fight, do you? What about, the society that we live in, where there's so many tweets, posts, connect, bing, bang, bang, distractions. And today you shared significant vulnerability and authenticity, and I thank you on behalf of the team for that. It's not easy to do. How do you give yourself permission every day to share? How do you share in a society that's just so diverse and judgy,
I mean, I guess where that writing side of things has been my biggest sharing point. It's funny, Louise, I remember the conversation vividly. She's like, as soon as she was diagnosed, she's like, I'm just going to be open about this, like, for now. And I sort of post out on social media to say, I've just gone to see the doctor. And I've been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which is a very rare type of breast cancer. Only a very small percentage of people get it. And then some people respond to treatment, and then a small percentage of people don't respond. Every treatment she had, she got a lot worse, a lot quicker. So she was like, I'm going to put it out there and put it on social. And what do you think? And I actually said, I remember saying, oh, I wouldn't do that. It's not my kind of thing to do. I shut the door and keep this private within the family. But I said, you got to do what makes you feel good. So the fact that she did that opened the door for us to sort of be transparent. And it was, in some ways, the blessing when she only, as Evie said, she'd only written 5 posts. And now I think I've written hundreds. And I just carried that on, originally flying the flag for her. And then it just became this thing where it made me started feeling good. So that's my way of sharing, because I can do it and then you can either read it and not like it, and you can comment on that kind of thing. But then that did open the door for me to then share more so in person as well. But it did take me bottoming out to do so. And I felt the difference of just telling those people, even when I had a little bit of a dip in July, I just wrote another little 1-page thing on how I'm going to make sure I come good here. The same thing, I just wrote 3 things down and just make sure I'm telling people that how I'm feeling, that kind of thing, because it does make you feel instantly better. So yeah, it's just getting in the habit of doing so. And that comes back to just all the habits and stuff that I started changing, looking at my life holistically. So it's hard to do, and it gets harder to do the more horrible you feel. But as we said, people want to help. So when you do stick your hand up and get genuine feedback, it helps people a lot.
Question quickly. Do you find at school, are your friends, are you quite good at looking out for each other? Asking, are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's great. I like to hear that.
Dad, you don't go to every single sport of our games.
Not every single one.
Basketball games.
Missed a couple of basketball games down.
First game.
I was at her communion. Sometimes they play sport at the same time, and I can't be in 2 places at once. But generally, I'll send grandma or grandpa or someone else along with the game. So
Thanks for listening to you.
yes. No, that's,
I got a question.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do you kind of being a progressive male who's a little,
Yeah.
you kind of incorporate what that is then, I've worked with a little progressive business, that
Yeah.
was the sense that people stuff is like
Yeah.
some of that as you different try.
It's easy for me because 9 of my team are based in Vietnam. So they're offshore. So I've got a Vietnamese guy that's is locally based in Sydney that helps facilitate that team. So he goes over back and forth and manages that. He understands the culture, right? And everything's down from, how do we structure these guys? How do we pay for their healthcare, stuff like that, things that are going to retain that group. So just having him manage that is easy because I'm sort of sensitive to how that will be best done. But for the local team, for me, it's just leading by example at the moment and just making sure that I'm open with those kind of conversations. And when I was running that business when I had that dip, right? Or let's say more than a dip, when I got into that massive rut. So instead of just going missing and they're probably thinking, where's Dom today or whatever, it's like literally the key people in business are saying, listen, I'm feeling really bad at the moment. I've got to get, I'm seeing a psychologist, I'm trying to work through it. I'm going to divert my email to you, that kind of stuff. So for me, and it's, we're only 15 people in total. So it's a lot easier to instill these things when you're not spread across the country. But it's just, leading by example and being very open about it. That seems to have worked for us because now I'm having these ongoing conversations with my employees that have been really beneficial. Cheers. Thanks for asking.
Might just go to the screen. Anyone got any questions online?
Yes, hello. Mitch from Canberra. I'm this one waving. There you go.
G'day.
Yeah. Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Noah, and thanks, Evie. That was great. You kids are great. Very brave to come into a place like this and speak up. more brave than some of us here. So very well done. I got a question for you, Dom. So, you know, very much 100% agree with you about the language that we use when you say, "How you doing?" to a mate. You go like, "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" "Yeah, I'm good." Then you move on. So when you say you know, I guess take a bit of courage to that conversation and try and speak a bit more realistically and tell them the truth. Is there any particular language you use around that? Because I think a lot of that perception of hiding ourselves away comes from A, embarrassment, but also B, not wanting to lump on too much weight onto our friends necessarily. So is there a way you would come about that language you'd use?
I mean, it's up to the other person whether they decide to ask any more questions, right? And for me, it's just more of an honesty thing. So it depends on who I'm talking to, what the nature of that relationship is, how often do you talk to that person, that kind of thing. But it's sometimes someone that I just connect, I might just bump into every now and then, and it might just be that setting is fitting for that time. If they're asking you generally, if they're saying, you know, how you been, that kind of thing. And I guess I get asked that sometimes, maybe a little bit more sincerely, because people know that I'm a single parent, and if you're a single parent and you imagine things, they may be a little bit more in tune than just your average person saying, you know, how you going, mate? But I've just got in this habit of just subtly sort of saying, "Oh, I'm pretty good. Last July was a bit of a battle. Just wasn't feeling myself." And they're either going to go, "Oh, that's no good, mate," or whatever, or they're going to say, "Oh, tell me a bit about it." So it's just opening up in that sort of subtle way, and it's for me just the honesty, and then it's just a matter of whether that conversation then continues then or at another time. And that's sometimes where you get some genuine responses, but yeah, I've had a tough couple of weeks as well. And then you can collaborate on something and say, you know, what's going on, that kind of thing. So you've got to sort of pick and choose the way it goes. You don't want to lump something on someone, particularly if it's quite a big sort of thing. Like if you're really in a depressed state, then that might be first best to have with your very close family and friends, and then a professional. But otherwise, it's just that subtle sort of response of like, yeah, I'm not feeling too good at the moment. Had a tough couple of days, and then I say, "Oh, why's that?" And then you explain it. But if they say, "Oh, that's no good, mate," and then just push on, then you can just let it go.
Okay, great. I think so. It's more about opening a door for the conversation rather than jumping straight in the deep end.
100%. Like if they've got to have asked you, you know, how you been, kind of thing. You know, you're not going to bump into someone you haven't seen for a while and they're walking their dog, and as they walk around the thing, "How you doing?" "Oh, I'm just been up all night with anxiety," or whatever. They can sort of go, "Oof." So they've asked you how you're feeling, and then you're just basically responded with honesty.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
Anyone from Queensland or Victoria? Anything?
Evie,
Hi.
who's best? Who's the best godfather in the world?
You're the only one.
Awesome work.
Any other?
Awesome work, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, Alex.
Any other questions, team? Please.
Do you read much stoicism?
Yeah, just did you tell them? Like, with the Marcus style, or just with the letting go of emotions that you...
Letting go the obviously the quote, and then you do a lot of actual journalism.
Yes, journaling.
Oh, journaling.
Yeah, I do actually. So that's a good question. When and the thing is, right, this I stopped reading, and I reckon I didn't read a single book for about 10 years. Off the back of doing a Master's of Business at New South Uni and having to get up at 5 and just read. And obviously it's different, right? It's textbooks and stuff like that. But I just stupidly branded myself as not a reader. Once I finished that degree, I was like, I'm never reading again. Like I've had enough of it, which is super silly. And then when I was like at my worst, my sister handed me a book, and it was basically about how to let go of emotions and things like that. And with a technique of actually sitting in them. And then my dad handed me a book as well. Normally I probably wouldn't have read it, they went on the shelf. But Dad handed me a book that was based on a 2,000-year-old philosophy, which is called Stoicism. And that just resonated with me. And so I started reading that. I've actually probably read at least 10 books now on the subject. And there's a, you know, and to balance that out, I've read a whole lot of other philosophy as well. You know, so I've gone back and worked out, you know, all the way from Socrates and Plato and Aristotle. And there was the time through the, I guess, the opposite. You had the Stoics and then you had the Epicureans. And so all this history I've started trying to read, but I've landed on Stoicism. And I'm a massive advocate for it. And I'll try and summarize it for you for those that haven't heard of it, just in the shortest way possible. And it's basically like this is in a very, very simple way, but they got this thing called this dichotomy of control. And you basically put a line through a page of everything you can control and things that you can't control in the other section. And if you actually think about the things that you've got full control over, and you think about that, there's not much in it. It's only your actions and reactions and basically your character. That's all you can control. I mean, there is things that you've got partial control over that sort of sit in its own little bucket. You know, things like health, which you know, as we know, you don't have full control over, but you can contribute to that in some ways. But people's opinions, you know, people's judgments of you, those kind of things, you don't have any control. So there's a whole technique in there of just basically trying to let that go. But there's also a whole lot of other stuff in there about journaling, putting your day up for review. So every day, like, you know, what could I have done better, which is a really cool thing. So there's that kind of stuff as well. And there's a whole lot of other stuff to it, but that's basically it in a nutshell. And that has been, I just read that one book, and as I said before, I built the scaffolding around me of trying to get better. That was one of the things, of leaning on a philosophy and a way of life and a way to, you know, manage your emotions and the way that works. And it's been probably one of the biggest things out of probably about 10 things holistically that have helped me along my journey. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
On your podcast.
And my podcast.
And meditating.
And meditating. Yeah, I mean, like I've come to this path where I'm just trying to look at things differently and be really holistic about it. And that includes, you know, things like I try meditation. I'm not so good at meditating, so I've got this sort of breathing techniques and stuff like that. But throwing things in there that just give them a go and they might work for you and make you feel better. So run with it. But reading and reading a whole bunch of stuff, even parenting books and stuff like that, has been a massive help, because you've got the wisdom there, right, of people thousands of years ago and can send you in a direction that have been through the exact same problems you have.
Any further questions?
No more questions from up here, but just wanted to thank you all for coming in and just talking through your journey. It was really great to hear from you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you can hang around.
Yeah, we'll hang around and say eat. Yeah, Evie's already stashed the lolly. She's happy. There's no bigger sweet tooth in the world.
Well, Dom, Evie and I will be around for a little while. We're going to crank up the barbecue for those that are in Piedmont, those that are online. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, guys, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.